Hi honey, let's show some love for us grannies today. Subscribe to my channel and let's grow our family together. God bless. Pull up a chair, honey. I've got a story for you that'll stay in your heart long after it's over. Don't turn around, Katie whispered, shielding little Jane with her thin, fragile back. They were at the orphanage, and the headmistress was watching from the window like a hawk. Jane stood frozen by the cold iron fence, her heart pounding in her throat and her palms sweating. She managed to squeeze through those bars. She was thin as a rail. You see, and finally, she felt the cool air of freedom. Will you make it back by curfew? Katie asked softly. I'll try, Jane said, and she took off running. In her denim pocket were her very last coins for the bus. She felt a sting of guilt lying to the staff. Most were decent folks, but she had no choice. Her grandmother had been in the hospital for 3 long months, and the medical bills were piling up like a mountain. Social Security just wasn't enough. Jane was only 12 years old, but she set out to find a job in the big city. Everywhere she went, they said no. They said she was just a kid. But then, she walked into this elegant restaurant and saw the owner, a heavy-set man with kind eyes, struggling to arrange flowers in a vase. She walked right up to him and said, "You're doing that all wrong, sir. Roses need a sharp angle cut, and they really don't go with carnations." The man was stunned. He asked how she knew so much about the trade, and she told him her mama was a professional florist. The man thought for a moment, then shrugged. "Fine," he said. "Come in the evenings. You'll handle the arrangements and help out in the kitchen. I can't pay you much, but I promise I'll keep you fed." And just like that, a new chapter began. She'd slip into the service entrance, tie her hair up, and get to work. The kitchen was a constant whirlwind of clinking plates and sizzling pans. The head chef, Gus, was always barking at the servers, but he'd always smile when he saw her. "There's our little helper," he'd say. "Though change the flowers by the window, Jane, that rose is looking a bit tired." And when she stepped into the dining room, it was a different world. Soft jazz, amber lights, the smell of expensive perfume. She loved watching the guests, beautiful women in silk dresses and men in suits that surely cost more than a house. She noticed every little thing, a couple fighting in total silence, or 2 young lovers who looked like they were the only people on the planet. But there was one woman she liked most, Vivian. She had fire red hair and green eyes that seemed to glow from within. She wore simple, elegant clothes and spoke with a voice so warm you just wanted to listen for hours. Vivian would order a pastry, call Jane over and say, "Here, honey, this is for you." They became friends, and Jane even shared the truth about her grandma's bills. Vivian always left a massive tip after that. But Vivian wasn't always alone. Sometimes a tall, handsome man in a sharp, expensive suit sat with her. His name was Andrew. Jane didn't like him one bit. His smile was fake, like a mannequin in a store window, and his eyes were cold as a winter morning. He looked at Vivian like she was a museum painting, expensive to own, but not really interesting to talk to. One night, Jane overheard them. Vivian asked softly, "Andrew, do you remember how we met?" He just shrugged and said, "Our parents arranged the dinner. It was a business deal, Vivian. I got the firm, you got stability. It's fair." Vivian sighed and asked, "But what about love?" And he just looked back at his menu and said, "Love is a luxury we simply can't afford." It broke Jane's heart to hear it. Then one night, Vivian came in alone. Her phone rang, she sounded tired, and she realized she'd be dining by herself again. Jane went to change the water in the vase, but she couldn't stay silent anymore. The question had been burning inside her for weeks. She took a deep breath and asked, "Why does your husband need 2 wives, Mrs.?" Vivian froze, her wine glass halfway to her lips. "What do you mean, 2 wives?" she asked slowly. Jane swallowed hard. There was no going back now. "Your husband comes here often with another wife," she said. "He hugs her. He looks at her with real warmth." Vivian's face went pale. Her eyes suddenly went empty. "Are you sure?" she whispered. I never lie, Jane replied. She described the young blonde woman, how they sat at this very table, how he leaned in to catch her every word, and how he'd hold her waist as they walked to the car. Vivian nodded slowly, like she was finally admitting a dark truth to herself. I felt it deep down, she whispered, but I wanted to believe that real feelings were just stories for children. Her voice trembled, and Jane started to apologize, but Vivian stopped her. Now, honey, you did the right thing. She pulled a business card from her purse and handed it over. If you see them again, call me immediately. I will pay for every bit of your grandmother's medicine. Jane took the card with shaking fingers, knowing things would never be the same. 3 days later, Andrew walked in with the blonde. Jane made the call. 20 minutes later, Vivian arrived. She stood at the entrance, and Jane watched her face turn from hope to pain, and then to something as hard as stone. Andrew was laughing, really laughing with the other woman. He was holding her hand. Vivian walked right up to their table and stood over them. Andrew, she said. He turned white as a sheet. Vivian, what on earth are you doing here? He stammered. The blonde just leaned back with a smug, triumphant look. This is Lara, Andrew said weakly. Vivian, let's not do this here. But Vivian sat right down at their table. She asked how long it had been going on. Lara smirked and said, for years, if you must know. And we have a daughter, 2 years old. She looks just like her daddy. Jane watched from the shadows, seeing Vivian fight back the tears. Every word Andrew had ever said about not wanting children was nothing but a cruel lie. He had a whole second family while Vivian sat at home alone. Vivian stood up, her hands shaking, but her voice steady as a rock. Send the divorce papers to my office, she said, and pack your bags by tonight. Andrew tried to argue, but she cut him off. You're fired, Andrew. You were just a hired manager in my father's corporation. Did you think a marriage certificate gave you special rights to my life? She turned and walked out, her back straight and her head high. But Jane saw her shoulders trembling. The girl ran after her, catching her at the entrance. Vivian whispered, I was so foolish. I've been alone all these years. Jane reached out and put her small, warm hand on Vivian's. You aren't alone anymore, she said. I'm with you. A week later, the director of the orphanage called Jane into her office. Someone wants to take you in, she said. It was Vivian. She didn't just want to be her guardian, she wanted to give her a life. When Jane walked into Vivian's huge, solid home, she clutched her old, beat-up backpack, feeling out of place. But Vivian just smiled, hugged her, and said, Welcome home, sweetheart. Let's go have some tea. They sat and talked until the sun went down. Jane told her about her mama, who could make magic with a few stems of greenery, and her papa, whom she lost when she was just 5. She talked about the long, dark months of loneliness. Vivian hugged her tight and said, I need you just as much as you need me, Jane. Real family isn't about contracts or business deals. It's when someone truly cares if you're there to say goodnight. And for the first time in years, Jane felt safe. 6 months later, Grandma was finally healthy and living with them in a beautiful room on the first floor. Vivian sold that heavy, soul-crushing company and opened an art studio instead. She was a completely different woman, smiling, glowing, and full of life. Jane would come by after school and watch the students paint their masterpieces. She even noticed a certain handsome artist who spent a lot of time painting portraits of Vivian. And Jane, in her heart, knew she had finally found where she belonged. So you see, sugar, one little girl's honesty saved 2 lonely souls from a world built on lies. Vivian is a bride again now, and she promised Jane a little brother is on the way. Life has a beautiful way of working out if you just have the courage to tell the truth. Thanks for listening to Nana Rose. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the heart. I'll see you next time. God bless.